And who are we? We are a volunteer-run local nonprofit. We teach people only about native California wildlife. That's it. That's it. Because as a biology teacher, I got very irritated about the fact that students in California do not learn anything about native California wildlife in school. It does not happen unless they have a special teacher or a special school that has decided that that's important, or if they live in Kern County, they get access to the California Living Museum, which is mind-blowing, and I highly recommend it. But here, you know, you're gonna go to the zoo, right? And when you go to the zoo, you're gonna come back and you're gonna remember the elephant or the tiger, right? Like, does that help our interactions with our coyotes or our conversations with people about why we need a wildlife crossing? No, no, it doesn't. We're marching in the streets about elephants. And we don't know that our own mountain lions are on the verge of extinction. Like, this is a problem. And so my organization, like, this is what we do. Like, we try to teach people how to coexist, how to accept that this wildlife is here living parallel lives with us, and how can we do that in a humane way? Because a lot of people, when they don't understand it, they go to lethal means, like they're gonna trap it, they're gonna poison it, they're gonna call the exterminator, and these are the things that we're trying to avoid at all costs. So what do? We do educational programs like this. We do field trips. We get people out into nature to see wildlife. We do backyard consultations when there's a perceived wildlife conflict. And I use the word perceived, right? Because we know how that goes. And we, you know, at the end of the day, we're trying to keep, I know this seems crazy and obscure, pets that go in the backyard safe. I know, why do we care? Who cares? Because that's the emotional center for people. And as soon as they lose their dog, all coyotes are bad. So if we can do anything to change that, that's what we're doing. And we have a new coyote team that is actually starting. It started last year. We got a rough start that was kind of late, but we're really on it this year. So if you're interested in joining the Churanga Coyote team, and this is basically a group that gets information out specifically about coyotes at homeowners associations and in neighborhoods. My brochures are up here, as are my cards. And just contact me with an email, because I often have a slide about my coyote thing, but we're focusing on mammals today. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm passing around my sign-in sheet, and I've heard about this group. I've been warned. If you could write legibly, that'd be awesome. And you know, do sign in no matter what. If you would like to get emails from us, put your email address legibly. If not, if you're already getting my emails, you don't need to put it. But we only do educational things, and it's me sending the email, and I don't share it with anyone, and it comes out like once a month, roughly. That's my story. And so we table at events. We do a summer camp for kids where we teach them about wildlife tracking and all kinds of stuff about wildlife. We do it online too, and in that way it has become international. We actually did it in Mexico last year. We go to backyards to talk to people about what works, what doesn't work. We do field trips, right? So the field trip up the Central Coast, we see the monarchs, we see the sea otters, and we see the elephant seals, and we do this in January when everything is so like at its peak, right? And then some people were already up here and noticing, and I hope that during the break or whatever, I'm going to leave this here for you to explore later. We also have another field trip coming up, and this is on April 27th, and it is called Spotting Foxes on Santa Cruz Island, and we are going to be going to Santa Cruz Island and talking about the island scrub jays and the monarchs and the island foxes, and there's a 100% chance you will see an island fox, so it's super, super cool. So if you're into mammals, this is something I recommend. And it's just an example of, you know, kind of the ways we try to get people to appreciate that there's awesome native wildlife right in their backyard. And it's accessible. On this trip, it's not like a big hiking trip, right? Well, there's a little hiking on Santa Cruz Island, I will say. What is a catio tour? What the heck? Is this a wildlife organization or what? last year, and cats are mammals, and they are mentioned in this slideshow. Cats outdoors, as I'm sure you've been told 1,000 times, are an invasive species. Okay, I needed to put a cat in my other picture because I love cats, I have a cat, but cats belong inside. Like 100%, a cat is a mammal that belongs inside. And the catio tour was, they do this in Oregon and some other places, but I have been to the one in Oregon, and it was amazing. And I was like, why don't we do this in LA? So last year, I got together with a bunch of awesome organizations, including some of the Audubon societies and the feral cat groups, which if you know anything about them, they don't talk. I got them together on a committee. We had Humane Society of the United States, Pasadena Audubon, Pasadena Humane, San Fernando Valley Audubon, Fixed Nation, like the best of the best. And together we put on the Los Angeles Catio Tour in October. And we went around LA and we looked at different catios from a little window box to it takes over the whole side of my house. Oh, the catio guy is also a partner of ours. So anyway, and we learned also that these catios, we had, you know what else we had on our tour? We had a doggy-o. Right? Because we all get lazy, right? I don't want to take my dog out at night. I'm just going to let him go, right? And when I let him go, then what happens? Then the coyote gets him, and then I hate coyotes. Sorry. There's going to be a few wardrobe changes throughout. Okay. Let's get back to mammals. Today we're talking about mammals, and we're going to start with like how and why are we classifying life in the way that we do, right? Like what is kind of like the history of this? Like where are we going back to, right? And so let's go way back to some old white men. I know, it's our favorite thing to do. We get to do a lot of it, thankfully. Carl Linnaeus, AKA after he got nobility, he became Carl von Linné. But he's like the father of modern taxonomy. So when you hear Linnaeus, think about, I'm using 2 Latin words to describe a species right now. There you go. And then he wrote a book called Systema Naturae that was sort of like the book at the time that sort of, you know, gave everybody a name and a classification. Now, this is the father, whatever. Since then, many things have changed, right? Along the way, we've got animals being named after scientists. And right now there's a big uproar in the universe about that. And so we're going back to Latin names solely, right? Also, we learned that common names are a real problem in general, especially with plants, but even with animals, because you think you're talking about one thing, but somebody else thinks you're talking about another thing, right? So Latin names tend to be very specific, very clear. I always think it's really fun to look up the Latin names, right? Because some of them are really like, you know, like, they used to call the bear like Arctis horribilis or something. Like, I love that. That's my favorite. I wish I took Latin in school. Anyway, so, you know, and he sort of came up with this like tree idea of, you know, these family trees for animals, basically. Oh, no. Oh, that's fun. Okay, I didn't realize it was going to do this. See, this is what happens. This slideshow is a very special combination of a slideshow that existed previously for this class and then my own additions. So you will see that I will be surprised sometimes. And it'll be fun for all of us, I think, right? Okay, so more white men, old white men. I mean super old white men and super white men, right? So back in the day, you're like, oh gosh, how, and some of you may remember this, right? Or it was spaghetti, right? This is how we remember domain, or maybe you didn't even do domain back then. It's possible you didn't, but it's domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, so that's like basically how it goes. Like the domain is like all of it, right? And then we get a little more specific, and then we get a little more specific, and then we just get more and more ultra specific, right? And so this is like a mnemonic for remembering that. Dear King Philip came over for good soup. You know, and maybe, but for me, it's not very relevant. Like I'm not going to remember that. King Richard, King, like, I don't know. So I made up my own. This is easier for me to remember. Diva Katy Perry costumes offer fantastic glittery sequins. And they do. So, you know, you can choose to remember it any way that you like. Depends on who you're into, All right, and then like what is evolution? How did we get here, okay? How did we get here? Again, we've got these family trees, right? So basically up here, you've got your common ancestor, and we all started here with like basic cellular stuff. And then something happens here. And then one branches this way, one branches this, oh, something happened here. And then we went this way, and then we went up. And so you can see down here, this is where these things happen. And then this is where the unique ancestors come about, if that makes sense. So this is the ancestral lineage. And then this is the speciation event where something happens, and now we have a new modification, right? So you might find different definitions for evolution. I chose this one, descent with modification, right? Both of those things have to be involved. So I like that one. It's really clear, it's really short. I really like that one. And just to be clear, because some people get confused, not you, but some people, change over time is not the same as evolution, right? Like a butterfly becoming a caterpillar become a chrysalis, becoming a butterfly, that is not an evolution. Trees taking different shapes through different seasons, that's not an evolution. An evolution occurs, over many, many, many years, and it is defined by like one change and then a new branch as a result. And so again, here you've got, and people will put this, they'll try to confuse you. Sometimes it's upside down, sometimes it's right side up, sometimes it's sideways. I'm going to show you all of those here just to confuse you. But maybe one of them will work better for you, so that's why. So you've got, again, your ancestral animal here, and then they had all these babies, but then something happened, and then we got something different. And then from that, we got this, but over here, something different happened. And of course, there's scientists that can tell you exactly, specifically what happened, and it's super cool, but we don't have time for that today. But just, know that stuff happened, like suddenly, oh, now we have a few more cells. Oh, now we can move a little more. Oh, now we can move even more, like that kind of stuff, as you can see, right? Oh, now I can fly. Oh, I'm swimming. This kind of good stuff. Oh, look, we have another one, built the other way. And so again, you've got your common ancestor down here. What? I'm related to non-dinosaurs and jawless fish, and then you see there are these red lines that just sort of stop. Now, because not every evolutionary change is going to be successful, right? Sometimes it is, usually it is, often it is, but sometimes another event might happen that gets in the way of the success of this species. So, or it could just be that whatever that adaptation was not working for the future. So, and more. I just couldn't get enough. I really couldn't get enough. So again, you go back down to your ancestral jelly, and some of it just continued to be jelly, and then some of it just became a little more complicated jelly until, you get as complicated as this jelly. And then you have coevolution, which is kind of fun. And there's a lot of different examples of it, right? So it could be, there's different relationships and reasons why animals will, co-evolve means they're evolving together. But it might be a different reason, right? So sometimes these animals are predator and prey. And an example of this is the cheetah. The cheetah and the impala. And I'm trying so hard to stick to California animals, but the examples, it's just hard. And I'm even trying to stick to mammals, and in some cases that's really hard. I'm going to give you an example here that's not even a mammal, but that's okay. You'll know what the coevolution means, and that's what is important. So the cheetah, right, if he couldn't run as fast as he does, he wouldn't be able to catch the impala. And if the impala didn't run as fast as he does, he would always be caught by the cheetah. Does that make sense? And we have here, so I will bring this back to here, the pronghorn. Fastest animal in the world, right? Well, prehistorically, we also had a cheetah-like animal. And the scientific belief is that the reason that the pronghorn is so fast is because of this prehistoric hunter that it had. which doesn't exist anymore. So I know, right? How relevant. Thank you for sharing that with me. Okay, and then we've got another example where, and you may know this one, the yucca moth and the yucca plant, right? So the yucca moth lays their larva in the pod of the yucca plant and takes over a little bit of it, and then it grows up in there, and then, but it also helps pollinate the yucca, and it's the only, they have a very specific relationship. It's called the yucca moth, right? Because this is what they do. And so that's kind of cool. And then you have competitive species, right? These are animals that are evolving because they're both trying to sort of keep up with each other. And examples of that are sort of like animals that mimic one another, like butterflies, like painted ladies and monarchs, for example. So, so yeah, you have different, and I'm going to try to go fast because I thought I had to talk for 3 hours today. Turns out I don't, so we might seem like we're going fast because this is 3 hours worth of slides. Okay, so back to this. I want to make this as simple as possible because I feel like it was made hard for me in school and I didn't like that, right? So again, what are we focusing on today? The big domain, eukaryota, like jelly, right? The kingdom is Animalia, all the animals, right? We're getting more specific as we go. Phylum, Chordata, and again, so eukaryota, think jelly, just think that's all you really need. Animalia, animals, things that are moving around, there's life. Chordata has it right in there, there's a spinal cord involved. And then even more specifically, mammalia, you know. And I could just say right now, you know, you've got hair, you've got mammary glands, and you are warm-blooded. Let's go for a walk, we're done. Okay, we'll be done. But, you know, I'm going to make it more than that. We're just going to go and go and go. Okay, domain, eukaryota. So back in the day, right, like you got two kinds, you got 6 kingdoms, and you've got basically 2 kinds of cells. You've got these cells that don't have a nucleus, and so, you know, they're less, just less complex. And then you've got eukaryotes that have the nucleus. And so plants and animals and fungi, they all fall into that. So we are there in the middle, Animalia. All right, and this is kind of a cool, this you can find, and I put it on your list of resources. This is the Berkeley one. They have a really cool whole thing about evolution that's really with lots of graphics and cool stuff. And I've never really seen it done like this, but apparently this is the way they're doing it now. You know, and they've turned that family tree into a circle. And so if you look at it long enough, you will realize that we've got our prokaryotes over here, and then our eukaryotes over here. So it basically like, and this is showing you like how much of life is bacteria, how much of life is archaea, how much is this are eukaryotes, but then up here you can see, this is like where animals come in, right? So like we think of ourselves as the center of the universe, but there's so much more life than us, and we are such a small part of it. And we are super, super related to one another. Like we feel like we're super different from like a mouse or an elephant or something. But like genetically, even though we're like super close to like chimps and other primates, we're also super close to elephants and cats. When you look at the big picture like this, if that makes sense. Okay, so Animalia. What makes you an animal, right? And all of these things are animals, and not all of these things are mammals. We could play that game. That would be a great game show, right? Which of these is a mammal? And so basically, in the kingdom, in the kingdom Animalia, you are going to be eukaryotic, means that you're going to have a nucleus in your cell, and you're going to be more complex, right? You're going to be multicellular. You're going to be motile. You're moving around, and you are heterotrophic. Oh, did she just say heterotrophic? Is this a college class? I didn't know I had to bring my dictionary. So just as a reminder, because we don't remember that biology class, autotrophs are basically, they produce their own food, and then heterotrophs are consumers. So if you're an animal, you're a heterotroph, right? You are a consumer, whether you like it or not. All right, and then now we're going to get down to the phylum Chordata. We're getting a little more specific. So basically here we're talking, this is the clade where vertebrae came in. So now once we start talking about, and of course you know there's all kinds of other stuff, right? But when vertebrae came in, we had an event here. And if I sat and looked at it long enough, I could tell you which event. But for now, we're just going to stick with where sharks became separate from other fish and by bony skeleton, right? That's what happened. So over here, we did not develop the bony skeleton. We got the bony skeleton going on. And then after that, we got 4 limbs. And then after that, we had an amniotic egg. And then after that, we got hair, but we got 2 post-orbital fenestrae. All right, so then we became these guys, and then we became these guys. But as you can see, like, we're still pretty closely related. So if your partner sometimes seems like a reptile, all right, and what are the very specific, okay, and we're going to talk about this, basically pharyngeal slits, openings connecting the inside of the throat to the outside of the neck, often used as gills, right? They have a dorsal nerve cord or a nerve fiber bundle running down the back that connects the brain with the lateral muscles and organs. And they have a notochord, which is a cartilaginous rod running underneath and supporting the nerve cord. And then bilateral symmetry, mostly. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm completely symmetrical. Do you? I don't know. Anyway, and basically it's that spinal cord, right? If the animal has a spinal cord or it doesn't. That's basically where we are headed with that. This is just fun. Okay, so these are chordate embryos. And at first I had to look at this one. I'm like, what is this? This was in the one that was given to me. Like, what is going on here? And then, so we're going to have fun right now. We're going to guess, what are these? So first of all, do you think these look very, very similar? No. Oh, he's going to say no. You're not allowed to participate. So, I think if you're just the average Joe, and you don't know much about it, you might say, these do look kind of similar. And these are the beginnings of beings. And that you see is, it starts with that spinal cord. It starts with the spinal cord. So what do we think the first one is? You're not participating.
Chicken bone left over from a Super Bowl.
Yeah. They all kind of look like that. Any guesses on the first one? No guesses. Okay. What about the second one? Second one, we're going with chicken. Okay. What about the third one? No ideas? Okay. What about the fourth one? We don't know. Fifth one, any ideas? Cow. A little hippo. And what about this last one? Chicken. Whale. All right, I know, right? Okay. So now you're going to look down. And in some cases you can tell, and in some cases you still can't. Okay, so this guy, who's that? He's a snake, right? So snake is phylum Chordata, right? And here is, yeah, bird, probably a chicken. Who's this? Okay, look at this. This is the highlight here. Notice this mouth. This is a marsupial mouth. Do we have kangaroos here? Come on. That is an opossum. At least I think it is. But yeah, they have that mouth that is just like made to sort of attach in that pocket, right? And then this one. This one actually looks a lot like his grown-up counterpart, I think. Add some ears. Yeah, that one's a cat. That one's a cat. What about this one? Yes. Oh, man, is that cool or what? And then this one. Yeah. But, didn't that one look more complicated from the get-go? We were like, something more is going on there. All right. All right, so now back to who are we talking about? I'm sorry there's an owl in that picture. I meant for there just to be some squirrels and a raccoon, but that's how it goes. So just mammals now, specifically. We have a whole bunch of different mammals here. Not all of these mammals are local mammals, and you can tell some of them don't even really look like mammals, right? And again, more of the trees. We break off from mammals, then you've got your monotremes, you've got platypuses and stuff, you've got your marsupials, again, just totally different. Then you come down and you've got different animals on, I think, different continents, and just different. We've got our rodents, we've got our elephants, we've got our monkeys, and our what are they? Rabbits, yeah, no, there's another word I wanted to use and I can't think of it right now. And bats and, hooved animals, and then even, we've got whales and dolphins. What? We're going to talk about that. And then the orders, right? What comes under mammal is like the different orders of mammals. And this is where it gets interesting to people like you and I think, right? So you've got, again, all of these Latin names, lagomorphs, that's what I was thinking of, because that's like rabbits and stuff. And you can see by these Latin names, in a way, they sort of describe the animals that fall under that phylum, under that order. So like Chiroptera is bats. Chiroptera translates to hand wing, right? Carnivora, meat eaters, although that one, we use carnivore in so many different ways. That's a hard one. Insectivora, insect eaters, right? But this is very specific. Sometimes they're just called carnivores if they're eating insects, right? So being an insectivore is more specific than that. We've got our marsupials, our monotremes, our pinnipeds, our primates, rodents, and then this lovely graphic, which is probably way more fun to look at close up for a long time. And then just an example, under the orders, you're going to have it divided up even further, right? And this is just an example. We took order Carnivora here, broke it down. You've got your cat family, you've got your dogs, you've got your bears, right? And under the cats, you've got different families of different genuses of cats. You've got different, one genus for canids, but different species, and then you've got one genus here for bears. And then that's what their Latin name will be, right? So this is Ursus arctos, that's the polar bear. Ursus americanus, the black bear. It says horribilis under there. Shh. Okay. Canis lupus, the wolf. Canis familiaris, the dog. Panthera pardus, the leopard, I think. I don't even know because I focus so much on everything that's here. Felis catus, there you go. There's your house cat. So it's all just broken down. And and this is like kind of the main thing, but I don't know, not really. It's all important. How are mammals physically different from the other living things, and what are their special adaptations? And again, we could really do a whole class on this because the mammals are so different. If we could do a week's worth of duck-billed platypus, right? But we're going to talk more about the mammals that we talk about in our daily lives and see in our daily lives and conversations that we have. So this was just a fun graphic that I found. It goes a little bit deeper than just, warm-blooded and fur and live birth, right? So we do have the fur. And then we're breathing with lungs, and there's a diaphragm involved. We're mostly born alive, except for some of the outliers. We're warm-blooded, which means we create our own body heat. We're not dependent like reptiles or other animals, well, reptiles mostly, on our insects, right, on what's going on outside. So we're creating that and we have to conserve it, and we're spending a lot of time and energy each day just maintaining homeostasis, right? And the single boned lower jaw is sort of a big deal. Other less complicated mammals will have a jaw that's segmented, basically. And so this is the bottom jaw. And these are all replicas, by the way. So if you come up, you can touch them, play with them. It's a lot of fun. I'll just pass around a jaw. Why not? Bottom jaw of a mountain lion. And then you can sort of compare it to some of the pictures that we'll show. And that has to do with just their way of life and their diet and just the fact that they're more complex. And they're vertebrates, which means they have a bony skeleton and they have spinal cords and they have mammary glands and they feed milk to their babies. And the mammals have 3 bones in their middle ear. Other animals do not necessarily have as complex an ear. Like, for example, a reptile, I think it's 1 bone in their ear, and it's more like just for picking up vibrations and stuff like that. So we were able to articulate our hearing a little bit better. And especially if you think about other mammals besides us, right, their ability to hear can be incredible, as their ability to smell. And then, so we've got this body temperature thing, right? We are endothermic and we have to maintain our body temperature. So as mammals, how do we do this, right? So, this is what we like to do the best because that's super fun. Or to stick your head out the window, right? That's super fun. But actually, so they have different, these animals all have fur of some kind. They have a body covering, right? And they have, and this doesn't look like fur, but it is, and it molts every year. And so if you want to see that molting, you should go there in, I feel like summertime at San Simeon is when they're molting. And like their skin is just like sloughing off and they look crazy. And then we have skin and we have hairs that help keep us warm, and layers of fat depending on where we live or, just what our lifestyle is like. And, we have all sorts of hair in the animal world. And it's all amazing and different and I think beautiful. And it serves a different purpose, right? So it is to keep them warm and certainly protect them from the elements, but also you can see that this hair serves another purpose as well, and that is camouflage. Mammals are good at camouflage, and, or maybe not camouflage. Maybe you're just a walking warning. Who knows? And here's some more amazing hair, all local animals.
Well, actually, Dana, I have to say, you got a picture of Cher down there. That is a local animal.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. I'm pretty sure she's LA.
Well,
Yeah.
more than LA, she's Placerita. One of the owners of this property, the Walker family, she's a granddaughter of one of the owners of this, and spent time here as a kid. So.
How weird is that that's the hair? When I thought hair,
Yeah.
I thought Cher. I was like, who? I mean, that is so great. Oh my gosh. Well, see, that was meant to be. I love that. And porcupine, right? Look at that. That's some fancy hair. I love that. There's a lot going on there. And then you've got opossums who get a bad rap for their hair. Most people don't like their hair very much. And most people don't get to see the hair on a pocket gopher. And look at the ringtail. Nobody gets to see that either. They're pretty amazing and awesome and around in our local forests. All right, so this is something fun. Bergman's rule. Larger animals are found in colder environments and smaller and this is a gross generalization, okay? So the rule is a generalization to start with, and then my definition of the rule is also a generalization. So just know that right now. You're not gonna find that written anywhere. But the bottom line is that, for example, our bobcat, right? Like I can look at a picture of a bobcat that's local, and I can look at a picture of a bobcat that lives in Wyoming, and I can tell the difference. And I bet you could too. So the local bobcat is going to be thinner, it's going to be smaller, it's not going to have as thick of fur, right? Whereas a northern bobcat is going to have probably another layer of fur going on in there, and is going to have extra fat, and is going to be a little bit of a bigger animal in general. And so this is the same with coyotes. You can tell a coyote that lives here. People will look at I've had coyotes in my slideshow, and somebody's like, and I always try to use local animals when I can, because they're like, that animal's not from here. You know, it's funny, you can tell what your local animals look like, and it will have some dependence on your local weather. Okay, so we have what also makes us mammals. So we have these sweat glands, right? And we have sebaceous glands, right? And how do you know what those are? How do you access them, right? So maybe you're in the steam room and they open up, right? That's one way. And if you saw Ursher at the Super Bowl, he was a stunning example of these glands at work. It's like, how does he, and I just kept wondering, when is he going to take his shirt off? And thank goodness he finally did, because I was like afraid it wasn't him at first, actually. So then, but then what about animals, right? Like, I don't bring my dog into the steam room with me, right? Like, how do other animals that don't maybe look like humans, how do they access similar glands that are not exactly the same, right? So a lot of animals will have these in their pads, so they can like step in water and cool off, or they can just, you know, and they pant, right? They use their mouth for evaporation. That's another way they do that. So but they're all sort of for the same effect, which is to maintain homeostasis. So we've got the mammary glands, we've got the live birth going on. My favorite is bobcat mama. Nothing is cuter than little nursing bobcats. Oh my goodness. And then this is marsupial mama over here. These are these little sucky faces, and there is a little pocket in there, and they are all, and they are altricial. They can't live outside of mom at first, not for a long time. They are born so immature. So that's that's a whole different mammary gland system, right? When you have to crawl into a pocket, right? And then of course humans, we have that going on as well. So yeah, I could have put a lot of pictures, but you get the idea. Also, we tend to be sexually dimorphic, with the males being about 10% larger in general. And mammals can be arboreal, and that means like only living in the trees. Mammals can be terrestrial, living on the ground. Mammals can be aquatic and spending a lot of their time in the water. So don't be confused. And we're always trying to maintain homeostasis. I think this is a cat, but doesn't really matter. You've got organs that work together. And again, you've got a diaphragm that is working some lungs, and you're making energy here. And again, you're a heterotroph, so you've got to get your food from somewhere, and you need energy to do that. Now this is fun. So you've all heard of carnivores, herbivores, omnivores. My favorite is the manly men at the Super Bowl who are being carnivores. You're not a carnivore because I just saw you eat something off the veggie tray, so don't tell me that, right? But it's interesting because carnivores are classified differently, and for good reason, right? Like it offends me when people talk about bears hunting. I get all offended. I'm so tired when people are like, "Oh, black bears hunt." I'm like, don't tell me that. I'm so tired of hearing that, because yes, black bears hunt, but they don't hunt that much. A black bear, if you were to encounter a black bear in the wild, he's more likely to be sleeping or eating some berries. Eating some berries. That's like his number one thing to do, is eat berries. But we're all like, oh, bears are carnivores and they eat meat and they hunt. And you're like, oh, but no. So an example of a black bear, or an example of a hypocarnivorous animal, which eats 50% or less meat, be a black bear. And probably a coyote. All these animals that were like, oh, they're coming right for us, like they're probably hypocarnivorous and they're not even eating that much meat because they are also omnivorous. Like a black bear is omnivorous, so if he can eat things that he doesn't have to kill, of course he wants to do that, right? Coyote, same thing. And can they and will they scavenge? Yes. That is one of the main things of animals like this because they're not big hunters. And then you got mesocarnivorous, which is like somewhere in the middle. Meso means in the middle. And they're sort of eating half meat and then half other things. And then you got hypercarnivorous, right? And that's like 70% or more of that diet is meat. And that's going to be cats for sure, every kind of cat. And a polar bear, but not a black bear. So you can be a bear. You could live totally different lifestyles, right? And then herbivorous, you're only eating fruit and vegetables, right? And then omnivorous, you're doing all of it. Omni. Here's another fun rule. I love these rules. Again, it is a gross generalization, and I made up the definition. So, you'll find a similar whatever, but basically, the size of the animal is going to help determine what they're eating. So if you think of like really small animals, they tend to be insectivores because it's easier to dietarily process protein. Same with meat. Like it's more like your body. It's easy for you to process. When you throw in vegetables and complex carbohydrates, it takes longer to digest. So generally, if you're a smaller animal, you have a faster digestive system, you have a faster metabolism. And so, and again, this isn't a mammal, but a hummingbird, for example, is an insectivore because they have a really, really high metabolism. So a lot of, and then larger animals tend to be able to also incorporate vegetable matter into their diet. So, Allen's rule. And then these middle ear bones. So, and here's an example, right? This is a mammal ear right there, 1, 2, 3. And then you've got the reptile, which is 1. And it's not even, and those are, you can tell even from this basic drawing that they're more complicated bones than what you find in a reptile. A reptile is not going to be hearing very well because it's sensing the world through vibration. And we're not going to spend that much time on this, but basically there's all this science around, what your dentition will look like based on your diet and your evolution. And this is similar to having a bottom jaw with teeth in a certain formation. Okay, and then this is another definition we talked about just a little bit earlier. An animal that is, these are words that you might see in your reading or whatever, altricial versus precocial. And altricial, basically, you're born and you are not really doing that much. But precocial, you need less support from your parents. So, like altricial, think about like those those baby rats or opossums or things that are born naked. And humans are altricial, right? If you birth a human, like it needs parenting until it's 40, right? But, if you're a deer, you pop that thing out and it's walking away from you, that's beautiful, right? So that is the difference. And then back here, there's just a very specific example of altricial, precocial, and then semi-altricial. But basically, you're talking about, animals that are born that can't stand that, for example, a human. That first year of life, their head is still growing, their brain is still growing, right? Like your head didn't pop out of a human being, right? It was smaller. So these things are still growing and they still need to be supported in a way that, precocial animals don't need that as much. And there's a perfect example, right? And I believe that might be like a regular baby bunny. I'm not even sure. And that's like a hare. I think hares are different than cottontails. I know, right? Don't quote me on that. I'm learning that myself if it's true. Okay. And then mammal intelligence and social structure. Now this one is really, really hard for me because we spend a lot of time talking about how smart humans are and primates are, you know, and then we start measuring things like dolphins and dogs and even an octopus, right? And I think that almost anything that we say here is debatable, because I think that we're good at measuring our intelligence because we know how we think. And we're good at measuring other primates' intelligence because it's similar to the way we think. But it takes us a long time to understand like elephant intelligence, right? Or to even know that they have a language, and because we can't measure it. So, you know, I can spend a lot of time talking about mammal intelligence today and brain size and how primates are the smartest, and talk about mammals in terms of, you know, rating them. But then I could also show you a video of a crow doing an 8-part problem with a stick, and that's not mammalian at all. Like I could show you a video of an octopus using a tool too. So like, I just feel personally as though it's not really up to us to measure other animals' intelligence when we don't have the means to do it. But yes, tool use is a mammalian thing, but again, crows and octopi. So I don't know. Social structure. And again, hierarchy and pecking order. This is something very human, right? Think fraternity, think corporate office, right? Think your volunteer program. I don't know, I'm just kidding. But they all have this. And what's funny is, though, all animals do this, and it's not strictly mammalian. Birds do this. All animals do this. So again, that's not, you know, as I'm reading up on stuff that I want to share specifically about mammals, that isn't. So fission fusion tends to be more mammalian than anything. Fission fusion, and not even most mammals. Fission fusion is humans and coyotes are good examples of this. So most animals are either independent. I'm a cat, I'm a bobcat, I'm gonna hang out by myself, I'm gonna get my own food, I'm only gonna get together with someone when it's mating season, and I will only be with other people like my family until it is time for them to move the heck on and I am alone in the world. Or maybe I'm a wolf and I can only do things with my pack. We make all our decisions together and that's how we roll. So that's fusion. You know, fission is I'm on my own, fusion is we do this together, and humans are able to, like back in the day, right, the hunting group would go, do the hunt, be gone for a day or two, come back, right? The stable unit is still there. Well, coyotes are exactly that same way, which is why we were able to extirpate wolves from the state, but not coyotes, because coyotes are not, they're not that way. They can work by themselves today, they can work in a group tomorrow. And that tends to be more of a mammalian. I can't think of an example of a fission fusion social structure that is not mammalian, but it may exist. And again, we're mammals, we're measuring mammal-like things. This is only the beginning of understanding intelligence of other forms of life. And then marine mammals. I pulled these out separate because I think people get confused about marine mammals and how they're mammals, because they don't seem to have a lot of the same characteristics that mammals would have. But they do, it turns out they do, it's just it's done differently. So, again, on our January trip, these are the animals that we get to see and we get to learn about, and these are all mammals. So where's their fur and where are their mammary glands? Like, how does that work? So I already told you these guys all they all have fur, and sea otters I didn't put on here, but they have like some of the thickest fur forever. That's why they were hunted to the brink of extinction, because the Russians wanted their fur, because it's waterproof and it's amazing. But they're tiny, so you need a lot of it. The whole Oprah. But anyway, so these are your pinnipeds. These are your cetaceans. You've got dolphins, common dolphins. You've got gray whale. You've got orca. These are all things that live off the coast in California. These guys still do, I think, have some little hairs on their face, and they have weird fur, vibrissae, weird fur, vibrissae. Okay, no fur down here. What the heck's going on? All right. See, dolphins do have, they just don't always, you know, they get embarrassed, so they slick it back, and you can't tell. When they're born, they have these little whisker hairs here. Right? And so you'd have to get really close to a newborn dolphin to see that. And then it goes away after a while. But that's what's left of their mammal hair. And they do also, and then here too, those are those vibrissae. They really help them navigate in the water. And of course, land mammals have those too. Cats and, you know, whiskers, right? This is a cross section of blubber. I wish it had a ruler on it, because there's that thin layer of skin, thick layer of blubber till you get to the muscular layer. So and it depends on the animal, and it depends on how far away it's traveling, how deep it's going. Like, this guy's not going very far. This guy's hanging out on the coast being obnoxious, you know. He's going from one boat to the other, right? This guy is going to either Hawaii, well, if he's a male, he's going up toward Alaska. And he's like diving like a mile deep. So he's got a different lifestyle to lead. He's going to have more blubber. And the females go to Hawaii. Still a really far, deep dive. That's how they survive with deep diving. They don't have a lot of defenses except their size.
If the females are going to Hawaii and the males are going up north,
Yeah.
when do they get together?
January in California.
San Simeon.
Yeah, San Simeon, Año Nuevo, and the great news for them is they were not as numerous for a while, and we just went this year. The king tides have caused a bit of a problem on their main beach, if you've ever been up there, and made it a lot smaller, and they did lose some individuals to that, which is like so heartbreaking. But what's interesting is they're sort of expanding their reach, and now they're further north and they're further south, and they can, and which I think is going to make those docents' lives a lot harder, because they've been focusing on the middle, and now they've got, you know, and even when we were there, we went to a different beach, and there was an elephant seal docent there. By the way, I can't say enough about that program. If you love to docent, you want to go up there once a month, oh my gosh, you need to do that. Anyway, aside. And they had these elephant seal docents that were at a place that was totally not near the elephant seal beach. And I'm with my friend who is a docent, and I'm like, why are they here? And she's like, oh, well, there's probably been one coming up. And we went off on our little walk, and we came back, and sure enough, on our way back, there was one right there, right up on the beach. And they're 6,000 pounds, by the way. And you could be walking on the beach, and if it's just one of them, you might not even realize it's there until you're like 2 feet away from it, because they don't move, because that requires a lot of energy, you know, don't want to mess up that homeostasis. And then it moves, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, like that'd be crazy. Like, they're huge. Anyway, so yeah, lots of blubber and different circulatory systems, different organization of organs to make life easier, and just different focus of things, right? And we have a, you know, sonar built in here better than what our military could build. Okay, and then some other outliers, bats, right? a lot of people do not realize, well, you all do because you were at the bat presentation, but a lot of people do not realize that bats are mammals. They think, I don't know what they think they are, but they think they're birds, or I don't know what flying reptile, I don't know what but they're mammals. And also a lot of times people think that bats are a lot like rodents. They're like a flying rodent because they're small, but they are not at all like rodents. Bats live a long time, rodents don't. Bats have one baby a year. We know that's not true of rodents, right? Rodents tend to live low, bats tend to live high. Rodents don't fly, bats fly. And while you do have like a flying squirrel that exists in the United States, it's not a true flying animal, it's a gliding animal. So a bat is it's the only flying mammal. So I think they're really incredible. There is a close-up, and I'm so sad I don't have the notes, and I can't remember which kind of bat this one is. I'm terrible at that.
A big one.
Right. Yeah, no, but close-up of, and these, by the way, are tiny. All the bats that you're going to see today are about this big in real life. Okay, Western pipistrelli canyon bat. He's one that I have a little bat detector. And in our areas, canyon bat is one that you would find a lot. In fact, I know what I liked about the slide, these were the ones that were here, is these are all local bats. I can't remember who this one is, and you can see his wrist and his thumb and his fingers and his forearm and his elbow and his little arm. And then that's a leaf nose bat. And oh no, that's a canyon bat. Hanging upside down.
I think the previous one was a hoary bat.
Could be, yeah. Because we have a lot of those here. A lot of those. That's the number one that I pick up on my bat detector. Followed by canyon bat, followed by Mexican freetail. Oh, you can't see the tail on this one. Red bat, you may have more of that one up in this area. I don't know. I don't get this one on my detector very often. All right, so there's your leaf-nosed bat. There's your long-eared myotis, California myotis, Western pipistrelli, big brown, Western red, hoary, pallid. These are all around here. They're all insectivores. In fact, pretty sure a colony of these guys, no. Which kind of a bat can eat 250? There's a colony of a certain kind of a bat that can eat 250,000 insects in one night. It's a local bat. It's this guy. And he's a freetail. Whatever he is, I know that he's a freetail because look, I see his little free tail hanging down. If that is covered by membrane, then it's not a freetail bat. That's what makes it a freetail. But yeah, oh my gosh, look at that. Oh. And that's a pallid bat, and he's eating a desert scorpion. See, bats are awesome. These photos are incredible. All right, so.
Holding onto that rock with his front legs in the wing?
Yes, they can even sort of like amble on the ground that way. Yeah. All right, so who are the mammals in our local communities and how can we find them, right? So spoiler alert, over here, again, when we have our break, you can have a closer look. I have this super awesome life-size tracks of common animals that we might find here, including we've got black bear down here and we've got beaver, but we don't need to pay attention to him. We've got mountain lion, and then over here, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, awesomely in this slideshow that was given to me, whoever made it also used slides from one of my very good friends, Kim Cabrera. She also made this poster, and her website is here. It's bear-tracker.com. She lives in Northern California, and she is like the best animal tracker I've ever known. And she has like no ego, and she loves to answer questions, and my YouTube channel has an interview with her. She's the best. Anyway, this is her way of telling the difference between feline prints and canine prints, right? And so you can look at this later, but very, very basically, as you're on the trail and as you're seeing prints, if you see that there are claws registered, then it's more likely a canine, because we know that felines retract their claws when they walk. Mostly. Is it possible to find a feline track with claws on it? And is it possible to find a canine track without claws? And when it rains or doesn't rain, the sizes of these change. So I had a story once where I got called. The person had lost 10 sheep in one night in Sunland. And they were all confused, and they wanted me to come out and look at their hunter friend had come to look at the tracks, and they were sure they were mountain lion tracks. And there could be a mountain lion in Sunland. There has been a mountain lion in Sunland. And so, and this was shortly after the incident in Malibu where a mountain lion took about 10 alpacas in one night. And I worked with the Mountain Lion Foundation and the National Wildlife Federation on that project to educate the homeowners and to build enclosures for these alpacas. And I think that was on everyone's mind. When events like that happen, suddenly other events like that happen, right? So now this person's livestock is gone. And so I go over there and I look, and there's paw prints all over the ground, everywhere. Whatever this predator was, there was a lot of it, and it was very busy. So I'm thinking to myself, this can't be a mountain lion, because there's got to be more than one of these here. But I was also confused because the tracks were huge, and I was just like, and they were very round, but there were things that just didn't make sense. So I don't know if you follow Cougar Magic, but Joanna Turner is a friend of mine. And I said, Joanna, I need you to come here and help me with this, because I can't tell. So she came over, we looked at it, and she's like, 100% canine. And then she showed me what she was talking about. And I'm like, huh. I'm like, well, that makes sense with the amount of tracks, because a cat isn't going to be with another cat. And there was definitely more than one animal. Well, now it's a mystery. Either we've got some animals running around this area that nobody knows about, or it's the man's own dogs. They were all black dogs. They were that Italian, it's like an Italian pit bull. I forget what it's called. But anyway, it's a very strong dog. And in the moment, we hadn't made that decision, because you're not going to suggest that to a homeowner. He's not going to believe you. He saw a little bit of blood on one of the dogs, but he thought it was because the dog was protecting the livestock from the intruder, right? And he still didn't believe me or her when we left. And we didn't say it was your dog. We just said, we think it was a pack of dogs. And so then I sent a note out to the neighborhood saying, you need to look for a pack of dogs. And sure enough, his dogs did get out and did chase a horse in that neighborhood right after that. And so after that, then he had to separate the dogs. And it was fine. The dogs, cane corsos, that's what they were. The dogs were fine, as if you know anything about dogs or canines. The dogs were fine when the humans were around, and the dogs were fine when they were on their own. But when they were together and they were left alone, they were a dangerous pack. And people spend a lot of time being worried about wildlife, but we should definitely be more worried about off-leash dogs or dogs that are working together, because that's very, very dangerous. Okay, but so who are these mammals? How can we find them? Spoiler alert, we can look for tracks. Claws are one thing. Also, splay is another thing. So, like, do the prints sort of all go the same direction, or do they sort of splay outward? And I'm thinking about claw marks for a canine. If they are all going in a forward direction, like this example I'm going to pass around, and they're small, that's going to be a coyote. If they're and coyotes have really small, you'll see I'm passing one, it's really small. You think, oh, he's so big and scary. He's 30 pounds. It's a small print. And all of the claws will go forward because he spends his life walking on soft ground. Dog prints will be more splayed because they spend more time on concrete and harder surfaces. So if it's all one direction, that's going to be a wild canine. And if it's all splayed, that's going to be a domestic canine. And then as far as poop goes with canines, I know you love this. This is the best part of the conversation. When we think about the diet of a dog, whether it's moist food or dry food, it's all the same food. So if you think about if you took that moist food or dry food and put it in a blender and then let it get hard, what would it look like? It would be the same, it would be uniform throughout, right? That's what dog poop looks like. Whereas coyote poop is going to be similar in size, usually a little smaller, a little denser, a little less moisture. I know, I'm so graphic. I love this. This is my favorite part. And then there will be fur, generally, and there will always be seeds. And they will usually be fig seeds because everyone in your neighborhood has a fig tree. Thank you very much. We're done. And then cats, like a bobcat, will have twistier poop of the same size, but twistier, and those ends will be like twisty fur. You see the twisty fur end? That's a bobcat, usually. Sometimes coyotes and bobcats can be hard to tell the difference. Also, bobcats will be more segmented. I know, I spend a lot of time thinking about that. And if you love this, I have two bandanas over here, one with prints and one with scat. I have this band. This was also how I knew that the creator of this slideshow was my soul person, because I have this and I love it. Look at all the fur and the gray wolf poop. Isn't that exciting? And then you've got coyote, you've got fur, but I don't see seeds here. I don't like that. I want to see more seeds. Bat poop glitters. It sparkles because they eat insects that have the sparkly beetle shell. I know, right? Oh my God, poop is just the best. You can never stop being excited about poop, never. Yeah, and this one I don't agree with. Raccoon poop is rarely formed. Raccoon poop is like baby bear poop. If you see it and it's a small pile, you're like, that's a raccoon. If it's a big pile, that's a bear. That's how you know. But
In the same spot in your attic. They make like
they like to latrine. Raccoons like to create a latrine where they will continue to go back and poop. Quick, get the raccoons out of the attic for free trick. Radio and a light. It'll get rid of anything that's in your attic, including a rat. Because whatever is in there, why is it there? It's dark and it's quiet. You put a light on, like a lamp that you could just plug in and leave on, and a radio, and leave it on as loud as you can tolerate it down below. And I do it for 2 weeks because they come back and they keep checking. Is it good? Is it good? And then finally they decide it's not good, and then you seal it up. Easy peasy. Never call an exterminator. By the way, bear poop never looks like this because they're always eating all those berries and it's just a mess with berries in it, right? Oh yeah, I could talk about this all day, but I won't. Okay, so we've got some shrews and moles that are part of our ecosystem. Usually we don't see them, we just see where they have been. Oh, that's fun. I love that. I need to do more of that. Look at that. And people are like trying to like poison these guys out of their holes. It's terrible. So cute. So wild if you find one. I mean, and just a little word on these guys and also gophers. I'm doing a study with some people in Agora, the poison-free group, and they're doing some studies on ground squirrel holes and gopher holes. First of all, we need to remember that other animals share those holes. Inside those holes can also be snakes, like our favorite gopher snake or a king snake. There could be a tarantula in that hole. So when we gas these things, like we're gassing a lot more wildlife than we think. And so that's just bad. But my humane friends have learned that if you pour a little castor oil in that hole, they will avoid that hole. There's stuff going on under that you may or may not be able to control, but they'll avoid that hole. They don't like castor oil. I know, right? Who does? All right, and so in our ecosystem, things we can find, rabbits. We have a whole lot of rabbits here in our area, and actually in LA, they just did a couple of studies. Rabbits are coyotes' favorite prey in the LA area, more than rats. They love the rabbits. And we have we have cottontails and brush rabbits and jackrabbits up in this area too, I think. And then we have, well, we don't have chipmunks, but there are chipmunks. And we have squirrels, gray squirrels, and fox squirrels, and ground squirrels, and oh, look at all the words popping up. Oh, it's so exciting. And then this is a hole that a ground squirrel would make. It also looks very much like a coyote den, because coyotes will often make use of a hole that's already there if they can. But you notice it's all spread out around it. Like they just sort of, oh, it's here, it's there, like whatever. There's one over there too. That's what it'll look like. But then you've got the gopher, right? So this is this guy. The only part of him you ever usually see is his little head sticking up. This is his magic castle going on underground, all kinds of stuff. This is why when you use your hose, it doesn't work. And unfortunately, that must be a dead one. But they store their little food in their cheeks. They're so cute. And you know, they keep the ground from being compacted. I don't know the problem with them, but that's what they leave. So if you see like that, it looks fresh all the time, and it's in one area, like that's gopher sign. And so you could see the difference. More spread out, fresher, less spread out. All right, then we've got mice. We've got deer mice and brush mice and voles and every other kind of thing. It's super fun to collect an owl pellet and figure out which one of these little beasts it was. A lot of it depends on where you're living, which kind of beast it is, actually. Because some of these only live in the desert or in certain areas, and some will live close to your house, and some will not. This is one thing we can almost always find. This is a dusky wood rat nest, just a wood rat, I think. And these are my favorite things to point out to people on a trail. Raise your hand if that's one of your favorite things. Yeah. Because you can see it, right? And you can tell the story. And I even have a little Folkmanis pack rat puppet. And I put him behind my back. And we go up, and everybody's looking in there. And I'm like, do you see him? Do you see him? I'm like, no, you're not going to see him because he's nocturnal. And then I'm like, oh, look, I found him. And they turn around, and they're like, ah! It's so funny. It's the best. See, now you know why Ranger Frank and I get along so well. Oh, look, it's a dusky wood rat! And FYI, the guy who lives in here, he's collecting treasures. Many generations will live in one of these things. The bigger it is, the more generations have been there. There's not usually too many living in there at the same time. And the kind of animal that lives here is not the kind that wants to come and live in your house. Facts.
Raccoons will also take that away.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, raccoons are definitely opportunistic. Okay, this is the Norway rat. This is the guy that does want to take over your digs. Look at the difference in cuteness. Okay, first of all. That's how you know. If it's a cute one, you shouldn't have caught him. But this guy, he's the one that really likes human stuff and that, just takes advantage of all, this guy, he's the wild one who likes to do his wild thing, like collect watches. This guy, he likes to come in your house and eat all your trash and all that kind of stuff. Oh, my favorite, Canis latrans. And I can tell he's a local guy. Oh, my second favorite, Canis latrans poop and Kim Cabrera's photos. So this is, sometimes you find it and it's gotten all white, but you could see that it's got that fur in it. Yeah, and by then the berry seeds have sort of gone to the universe. But here you can see there's some berries in there or something, I don't know. But it's a decent example. What I love about Kim Cabrera's pictures, and you should love too, is she always puts in a little ruler so you can tell exactly the scale of what it is you're looking at. Like, I love pictures like this, but if you're gonna have a picture like this, put in a quarter or, well, there, we got a little acorn, that's helpful. But sometimes it's hard to tell. Is it this big or is it this big? I can't tell. Its size matters, that's right. Okay, gray fox. And on our island trip, we see the island fox, who is the island version of this fox. So this fox is our local fox. There are red foxes out there, but our local fox is the gray fox. He is not a true fox like the red fox. He's different. He is genetically different. And and the island fox is about the size of a house cat and is just really like a lowrider version of this. They're little short legs, and oh my God, they're so cute. They're so cute. And these guys are great, and they probably have been in your backyard. They are very crafty, as the stories go, and this is what their poop looks like. Notice it's got the berries, and they also eat meat, but they also like berries. It's very small, though. And foxes, man, these guys are so funny because they love to display their poop. So if you're on the trail and you come across, like, it's on a rock or it's on a stump, and you've said to yourself, I know you've seen it, and you said to yourself, well, that's an interesting place for an animal to poop. I wonder if they did that on purpose. Yes, they did, and it was a fox, 100%. It's going to be small. It's going to be full of berries. It's going to be skinny. Thank you very much. Case in point, right? It was on a rock, wasn't it? They just love that. And I'm just going to tell you right now, 99% of the time, if it is displayed, it is a fox. Bear, black bear. He's called a black bear. We used to have grizzlies here. We don't anymore because we extirpated them right along with wolves because back in the gold days, people weren't getting golds. So the ranchers were saying, oh, just bring me the head or the carcass of a grizzly or a wolf and I'll give you money. And so that's how we got rid of all the grizzlies and the wolves as of the 20s. But then, and we didn't even have black bears down in Southern California. No, we did not. But the people in Yosemite, this is a great story. You really need to know this story as a docent. Back in the day, the 60s, think the Brady Bunch times, right? They bring their family to Yosemite and they set up their camp and, oh, tonight at dusk, we're gonna watch the bears eat. Well, how are we gonna do that? Well, the rangers are gonna take their trash and put it in the amphitheater. Yeah, that's what they did in the Brady Bunch days. They brought the trash to the amphitheater. Then the bears would come and the people would sit in the stands and then they wonder why the bears started stealing the picnic baskets. We literally trained them to do it. Then we got all upset about that. And now we don't have any bears in Southern California. So what do? We take the worst bears out of Yosemite, we trank them, throw them on a bus, and drop them off in the Angeles National Forest. That's a true story. And this is why we are the Australia of black bears. And that is why they're always in the pools and doing stuff they're not supposed to do, because they're genetically designed to do that. So,
Ours like spas.
spas, yes. They love a spa. They love that water. And they can be brown, they can be blonde, they can be red, they can be 1,000 colors. Okay, there we go, raccoon. Okay, so you got your raccoon, you got your opossum, you got your ringtails. We never get to see ringtails. They're highly elusive, but they definitely, and they're very, very nocturnal. They're definitely in our forested areas. Opossum are only marsupial, looking very much the same as they did thousands of years ago. Raccoon, being cute as ever, but carrying every disease that's zoonotically transmissible. You got your weasel, you got your badger, and then down there he's doing a little badger thing. And then you got your spotted skunk doing the spotted skunk dance, which I'd love to see in real life. And then your striped skunk, and he's doing his little striped skunk dance. Oh, look there, yeah. Doing the dance. And then here, okay, look at this. We've got, our 3 outdoor cats that live in California. What's wrong with this picture? This is where I take off this shirt and I have a catio tour shirt on, right? This cat does not, he's eating a rabbit here, it looks like. I can't tell, that's a weird tail. But they take out wildlife, they take out lizards, they take out songbirds, and even cats that only go outside for a short amount of time hunt. And even cats that are well fed hunt because they do it for sport. It is fun for them. It is enriching for them, which is why a catio is great. They can still smell the smells. They can still track the tracks. They just can't finalize the deal. They can go have their dinner inside. So I wouldn't generally put that on this because it infuriates me. This guy, that's our bobcat, and this is our mountain lion. 90% of mountain lion sightings are bobcats because our mountain lions here are super, super nocturnal. They don't come out until very late and they go to back very early because life in the big city is always happening. And also they're just very shy and very elusive, and the chance that you would see one is almost none unless there's something wrong. These guys, however, they're like coyotes, and they sort of depend on the fact that you can't see them. And they think that you can't see them. And they could be just like laying right here off the side of the trail, and you like walk by and you're like, there's a bobcat right there. And it's like not moving because it thinks you can't see it. It's true. There's so many times when we think wildlife is stalking us, like it's not moving. It's hoping you don't see it. It gets by on not moving. I can show you videos of coyotes sitting in public places for hours with traffic and people and nobody noticing it right there in the middle of everything. That is how well these animals blend in. So, but yeah, bobcat can be right next to you on the trail and he won't move, and coyote neither. And people will also take that not only as I'm being stalked, but look at that bold animal not running away from me. And when he's exactly the opposite, he's like, I'm staying still because this is preservation. Mule deer, the favorite prey of the mountain lion. But if you leave your dog outside overnight in mountain lion country, your dog will become the favorite prey of mountain lion. So don't do it. Your dog, I guarantee you, is not as fast as a mule deer. Yeah. Okay, and then some of the resources that I used for this and that I use in general when I'm learning about mammals. UC Berkeley, they have a super great evolution site if you want to make it easy to explain to other people. And these are all listed on your handout. And if you didn't get a handout, there are more at the front. CDFW, they're getting better. We work with them regularly. They're getting better and better at disseminating information that is true and helpful. And so that's their mammal information, but they also have a whole section that would also be useful to this group called Keep Me Wild. And then it's like Keep Me Wild /coyote /bear /mountain lion with all of the information. So iNaturalist, I love iNaturalist. On a walk like the one we're taking today, you could find a track or a sign or an animal. You can take a picture and you can upload it and you can find out what it is if you're not sure, and you can meet other people sort of virtually who are into the same thing that you are. There's a really great reptile study happening through the Natural History Museum right now on iNaturalist. It has been for years. This is a particular project that has to do with mammals, I think in California. And so I thought I put that link because I thought that might be of interest to you. If you don't know about the Urban Coyote Research Project, that is Dr. Stan Garrett out of Ohio State. He is studying the coyotes in downtown Chicago. And it is incredible information. And then also for mountain lion information, my favorite source is the Mountain Lion Foundation. They have been doing it for a very long time. That's who we worked with in Malibu with those other lions when the one lion took a bunch and there was a depredation permit out and it was a whole story. Mountain Lion Foundation was there, and they're the originators of the mountain lion proof pen that they have designed, and the design is on their website. Super great organizations. And then again, just more mammal education happening near you, which is basically what are we doing? Right now, we are in the middle of what we call the Native Wildlife Seminar, and I have these flyers up here. This is a 10-week course. Each week, we spend 2 hours talking about a different member of our local animal kingdom. We have already covered songbirds and raptors, butterflies and pollinators, coyotes. Tomorrow, and then we do Wednesdays in La Crescenta, and we do Thursdays online. This week, our topic is raccoons, opossums, and skunks, amazing adaptations. So it's 2 hours of just those animals, if that's what you are into, right? And then the next week, it's bears. Then the next week, it's foxes and ringtails. The next week, it's bobcat. The next week, it's mountain lion. And the week after that, it is reptiles. So if you want more information on any of those things, this is what we're doing. La Crescenta is pretty close. Online is even closer. And I am the presenter for those. And then this is just the flyer about that Santa Cruz Island trip, which is happening on April 27th. And I have the flyer up here for that. And that is my story.